Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Today, the theme of our episode is miniaturization. We are going to use very small engines and very small fuel tanks to go to Joule. This is going to be an unmanned mission, which is going to be one way, so we're not going to return. We're just going to go to Joule and hopefully gather some signs from its atmosphere. So let's go to the launch pad, time warp to the daytime, and try to start. 3, 2, 1, launch. Roll up. No. Okay, try again. This is much better. All we had to do is to stage launch clamps at the same time as activate engines. Easy, isn't it? So, while we are ascending, let's think about it, what we're going to do when we are going to get Joule. We have a small probe with 8 solar panels and multitude of scientific equipment, most of which unfortunately only works in the atmosphere. So my idea is to get the periapsis to Joule at such altitude so that we can use our atmospheric equipment but still escape the gravity pull and get back into the orbit to transmit it. Let's hope it works. This is actually the first version of the spacecraft. The first one used ion engine as the interplanetary stage, but I didn't take into account that thrust of ion engines is basically 0, and the burn to Joule would have taken me 45 minutes or more time than I spent orbiting Kerbin, so I wasn't sure it's possible in general, so I abandoned it. Maybe we'll return to ion engines in the future, but for now we are going to use the very tiny rocket engines. So let's orient to our node and start the burn. Considering that we are going to change 2 engines during the burn, we're going to start it a bit earlier, and it's almost as it should be. We should have started even earlier considering the thrust of our current engine, but I think it will be okay. So we're almost there. Let's just do this tiny correction. Looks perfect. And let's time warp out of the Kerbin sphere influence. Now let's create our correction burn, the same way we use it on all our interplanetary missions. Time warp and burn. If this mission proves to be a success, we are hopefully going to use other miniature spacecrafts to achieve even more interesting results and send probes to different places in the Kerbin system where we can gather signs which Kerbals have troubles acquiring. So we're going to see how this one goes. And let's create another maneuver to do the very tiny corrections, but as you can see it takes less than 1 meter per second, so it's not really worth it. It just doesn't work very well, but we're still going to do it thanks to the tweakable engines. we can decrease the thrust of our engines to almost zero and do these tiny maneuver changes, which are otherwise almost impossible. So let's time warp and let's do our maneuver. Whoop, and we're done. All we have to do now is time warp into the sphere of influence of Joule and think how we're going to aerobrake. Here we are. Now let's just create this node here and time warp to it. Okay, we are in the orbit around Joule and our periapsis is extremely low, so we have to raise it. I think something like 100 kilometers, 105, 110 kilometers, something like that would probably work. Let's time warp, retract our solar panels, and yes, we are getting into orbit. Looks like 110 kilometers is not high enough to get our atmospheric science, but we were able to get the gravimetric data and temperature data. And let's transmit it using our antenna. As you can see, our orbit is not actually an orbit. We are going to eventually fall down. And here I had this crazy idea. What if we fall down sufficiently enough that we are not burning, and then we do our science again and try to transmit it? Maybe it will work. Maybe the solar panels are going to be destroyed by the extreme pressure of Joule's atmosphere. We shall soon find out. So here we are falling through the thick layers of the atmosphere, burning down. Let's do the science and try to... No. At this point I had another idea. So what if we go to Lathe? Maybe we can get our atmospheric science from Lathe. All we need to do is change our periapsis around the Joule so that we don't drop down. And here we are, aerobraking into the orbit which will bring us close to Lathe. The previous attempt failed because we lacked the electric charge and our probe was literally dead. And soon after getting into this orbit, we got an encounter with Lathe. All we did, we were just time warping around the Joule, waiting for the close encounter, and here it is. So what we can do is we can change our periapsis and time warp. Alright. Now what we need to do is change our periapsis around Lathe so that we are not falling down directly to the surface. And let's try it. Retract the solar panels. And again, 17 kilometers periapsis is too high to get the atmospheric science. Well, maybe we can do something different. Maybe we can land on Lathe. Of course, we don't have the parachutes, but we have engine and 700 delta V. So maybe we'll be able to slow down sufficiently so that we splash down without much of an issue. So let's find out. And here we are trying to kill our lateral velocity and our vertical velocity. But No. No. Oh well. The only thing we can do at this point is quick save or quick load, change our periapsis around lathe so that we are not actually falling down, gather the science we can, and transmit it. Afterwards, let's time warp into orbit around the jewel, and using the fancy thing called Oberth effect, let's try to increase our orbit as much as possible and collect the last bits of science which we can. Alright, this probe will forever stay in Julian orbit and will be a constant reminder of our failure. Well, not total failure, but not a great success either. But we are going to continue our struggle and not give up. Although we haven't got too much science, as in game science, from this mission, we gathered valuable experience in constructing these small probes, which we are going to use in the following episodes, where we will use those probes to explore the furthest regions of Kerbal system and gather ultimate science. Once again, thank you all for watching. Remember to like, dislike, and comment this video in the section below. My name is Darlock, and I will see you next time.